boys and girls. Today in our lesson, we talked about reading and discussing drama. Have you ever been in a play or have you ever been to see a play? Yeah, me too. I know in first grade, all the first grade and second graders go and see the Pied Piper play, and there's other plays that come to town. And so when we're reading, um, we can enjoy those plays, which are also known as dramas. Play or a drama is also a work of fiction. They're written by a writer known as a playwright, and they can be enjoyed just the way we enjoy our stories. So today we're going to take a look at this story called Pandora's Box. This is a piece of traditional literature. It's a myth. Reading a drama is a little bit different than reading a narrative story. The written version of a play or a drama is called a script. So the image you see on the screen is a script. We're also going to look at some other differences when we're looking through the pages of the script. So take a look and see if you notice anything different that this script has that maybe a story version or a book version of this story would not have. I'll just scroll through a little bit, take a look. Well, hopefully you notice some of these things in this. These are some of our text features. So all 3 blocks today in the live meeting talked about how the characters are written as the name and then what the character says. And so all of them have narrator, and then you read what that narrator would say. Okay. Another feature is that dialogue. So basically, in a play, the whole script is meant to be read out loud and performed in front of an audience. A narrator, we're used to seeing those in stories, but the narrator is almost a character in a drama. So he would have a presence on the stage, whereas in a lot of our storybooks, a narrator is kind of an invisible, not character, but an invisible part of the story. They don't really take part in the story. They are just more telling what they see or what they're viewing, whereas the narrator in a drama is going to be a little bit different. They're going to have a role to play. Maybe you noticed this word scenes. And so right up here we have scene 1, and it tells us that scene 1 is Zeus's home high atop Mount Olympus. And then if you notice on the next page, it says scene 2 is at Pandora and Epimetheus's house. We've already mentioned the word script. This is the written version, so we call this page of text, we call this a script. The setting, I just showed you that under the scenes. So it talks about where Pandora, that scene 2 is at their house. And in scene 1, we have that we were at Zeus's home on Mount Olympus. And then finally, the last part is stage directions. These are messages from the writer to tell the people in the play like what to do or how to act. Usually it's written in italics or even sometimes in parentheses. Let's look for those. So right here, this is italics. It says the stage is dark except for a spotlight on the narrator. So if you envision the stage, you've got a dark stage, except one spotlight is on this one narrator. And the narrator is going to speak and tell the audience he's going to kind of set the stage. Whereas in a story, the beginning would introduce the setting and the characters with lots of description. And then I was going to pull up another one. Let me find one that's in parentheses. Oh, right here. So the lawyer character, it tells the lawyer to turn a page. He has this big stack of papers. And so it tells him, turn the page, turn the page, turn the page. Let me see if I can find another example. Right here. It says Pandora sighing heavily, so we know that the actress would not say sighing heavily, but she would actually sigh. She would, oh. So the screen directions tell her what to do or how to act. There's another part down here where the the little voice says faintly. So it tells how that person should speak their lines. She needs to talk quietly. Sometimes it might say they were shouting or sobbing or different things. So I'm going to go through and read the story to you. And if you, as we go, we'll try to notice some more of these features of dramas. So this story is Pandora's Box by Ed Combs. Scene 1. Zeus's home high atop Mount Olympus. The stage is dark except for a spotlight on the narrator. So none of that would have been spoken by the actors or said during the play. This is just stuff that we would know because it was in the script. So now the narrator would actually talk. The ancient Greeks believed that a family of gods controlled everyday life. These gods lived on Mount Olympus, Greece's tallest mountain. Though they had superhuman powers, they squabbled, fell in love, and played tricks, just like us common mortals. For example, let's consider the case of one Pandora, the first mortal woman created by the gods. So then this would not be spoken, but it would be done. The lights would come up, and now we would see Zeus, Mercury, Venus, and Apollo on the stage. This story takes place many, many years ago, when the world was a wonderful place. No one was sad, no one ever grew old or ill. Everyone had everything they wanted. Zeus is going to speak first, and then Apollo. I suppose you're wondering why I called you all together. The thought did cross my mind. In my infinite wisdom, I have decided to create a mortal woman. Mercury says, great idea, boss. I can give her cleverness and cleverness and curiosity. Venus says, I can give her beauty. Apollo says, and I can teach her to play music so beautiful that it will make you weep. Back to Zeus. Excellent, but I'm not really into the whole weeping thing. Just teach her to play well enough that everyone has a good time and nods their head to the beat. You got it, boss. And then the lights would fade out, and the spotlight would be back on the narrator. And so the gods created the first mortal woman. Zeus immediately arranged for her to marry a craftsman named Epimetheus, because that's how the king of the gods rolled in those days. He also decided to play a little trick on the newlyweds. So the narrator exits, and the lights come up, and now we see Zeus, Pandora, and Epimetheus on stage. I have a lovely wedding present for you two. Oh, you shouldn't have. What is it? A house? A swimming pool? A brand new chariot with air conditioning and 21-inch rims? Get real, Pandora. I'm just a Greek god. I'm not made of money. Zeus claps his hands, and two servants enter, carrying a golden chest padlocked shut. They set the chest in front of Pandora. Then Zeus says, however, there are a few little details that you must agree to first. My lawyer will fill you in. The lawyer enters, sets his briefcase on the chest, opens it up, and pulls out a stack of papers. And then he says, in accepting this gift, you must agree to certain terms and conditions. Namely, you must agree never to open the box or allow anyone else to open it. If you do, you will face severe penalties. I can't even open it? What kind of gift is that? It's the kind of gift being given to you by the king of the gods. I strongly recommend that you accept it. Good point. The lawyer hands her a pen and starts leafing through the stack of papers. Sign here, turns the page. Initial here, turns the page. Sign here, turns the page. And here, and the light fades out as Pandora is signing the papers. Now we turn to scene 2. Remember, this setting is Pandora and Epimetheus' house. And the stage is again dark, except for the spotlight on the narrator. Now, Epimetheus was an excellent craftsman, but he wasn't the most curious guy on the planet. When he and Pandora returned home, he set the chest in a dark corner of the house and covered it with a blanket. The light comes up as Epimetheus is covering the chest with a blanket. So we would see him on the stage, covers it up, and then he says, "There, out of sight, out of mind." Now Pandora enters. It might be out of your mind, but it's not out of mine. I simply must know what's inside. Pay no attention to what's inside. Just put it out of your mind. That's easy for you to say. Mercury didn't make you intensely curious. Sometimes I wish he had just given us a blender instead. I'd love to sit here and chat with you about this, but I really need to get to work. All those crafts aren't going to make themselves. Epimetheus leaves and Pandora sits down on the chest. It's probably just sheets, or dishes, or a coffee pot, or something. And suddenly the chest starts rattling. Let us out! Pandora leaps up and looks at the chest. Well, that's definitely not a coffee pot. Come on, Pandora. We don't have all day. Pandora carefully pulls back the blanket with a thumb and finger. So I think this is an important part right here because it's kind of like she's picking it up with like just these two fingers, kind of like the way you would pick up a dirty tissue or a dirty napkin or something. You're like, ooh. So maybe she's a little bit worried, a little bit scared about what might be inside talking to her. I can't open the chest. I signed the contract. I could face severe penalties. Look, it's really stuffy in here and some of us aren't in the best health. You'll be in a lot more trouble if something happens to one of us. Pandora thinks for a moment. Good point, but I don't have a key. It's in the lock. So it is. Pandora unlocks the lock and the lid flies back and she is knocked down by an icy wind. The room is filled with howling gusts and a nasty slimy creature climbs out of the chest. Oh, Pandora, how nice of you to release us into the world. Pandora watches in horror as one horrible creature after another emerges from the chest and is introduced by the creature. Pandora, meet my good friend Disease. And Disease says, pleased to meet you. And Creature says, and this is my old pal Cruelty. I thought Venus gave you beauty. I hope you kept the receipt. Burn. The creature says, this is Pain. And so Pain would walk up to Pandora and kick her in the shin. And this is Disappointment. And Disappointment looks around the room with an air of dissatisfaction. Ooh. I thought this place would be a lot nicer. Now the narrator comes on stage and Creature continues to introduce all the other evils to Pandora. But narrator says, while they're quietly doing that on the stage, narrator will say, one by one, all the evils that infect our world climbed out of the chest and slithered out the front door. The afternoon turned to evening, and the evening turned to night. Finally, Pandora roused herself to action. Pandora leaps up, she slams down the lid, and the creature smiles slyly. Now that you've met all my friends, I should introduce myself. My name is Death. Pandora screams, ah! She falls to her knees in front of the chest. Death cackles evilly as he leaves the stage. Ha 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 ha! And Pandora lays her head on the chest and sobs. And suddenly she hears a tiny whispering voice. Pandora, you must let me out too. Leaving me inside would be your worst mistake of all. Pandora shakes her head. Absolutely not. I'm in enough trouble as it is. But I am Hope. Without me, the world can't bear all the goodness, you have turned loose." Pandora thinks for a moment, and then she slowly lifts the lid. As Pandora lifted the lid, a white flicker, small as a butterfly, flittered out of the chest. The still howling wind blew the white flicker this way and that way, and Pandora watched as Hope fluttered through an open window just as the sun breaks through the storm clouds. So I hope you enjoyed that story today. In class, we talked about the message, like what should we learn about this? And a lot of the kids said, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you what they said because I want you to write in the private comments to prove that you saw this lesson today. Tell me in the private comments, what is the theme or the message for this story? And then I'll message you back and tell you if you were right. So you tell me what you think we as the audience or we as the reader should learn from Pandora and her experiences with the locked box. In class, so you do that, and then in class we talked about some of the features of drama today. So we glued this in our notebooks, and we wrote down, we read the description over here, and then we wrote down what features we thought these were. I also gave you your own drama to practice with. So that looked like this. This is funny because the title of this play is Drama. Get it? It's a drama about drama. You know, like when you say, oh, you're causing so much drama, meaning you're like being too fussy and fighty. So read that drama. And the other half of the features with drama, so these were 2 pages together, you had some questions about dramas. And so after you read the drama play, you're going to answer 6 questions about the drama. And then you're going to take a photo of that, or you're going to and send it to me in the assignment. Or if I'm going to see you in class on Thursday or Friday, then you'll give it to me in person. Okay, so this one you can glue in your notebook. I gave this one out Friday. And this one, this half you're gonna bring to class. There were also 2 other papers that we glued in our notebooks, 2 anchor charts. One said stories on the left and the other side said drama on the right. We just glued those in our notebooks and talked about some of the differences. If you have those sheets in your folder, you can glue those in your notebook so that every time we talk about dramas, we can have some of those characteristics in our notebooks. Okay, so don't forget to do your private comment and keep reading. Talk soon. Bye-bye.